It started with a silence no one expected. Andre and Elizabeth were suddenly gone from every TLC promo, every schedule, every lineup. Fans woke up to find their names missing, their faces wiped from upcoming episodes, and within hours, rumors exploded. $1 million lawsuit, a lifetime ban, secret files hidden by the network. The internet caught fire, and the question hit harder than any fight we'd seen on camera: what really went down between Andre, Elizabeth, and TLC? Welcome to TLC Drama Live, I'm Sabrina. If you've been following the chaos, hit subscribe and tell me in the comments what you think happened behind closed doors. Because tonight, we're not watching a storyline, we're watching one collapse. The story began where most 90-day relationships end, with control. For years, Andre's fiery attitude was the show's oxygen. Fans loved to hate him, producers loved the ratings, and Elizabeth's family played their part in the perfect storm. Every fight was content. Every argument, a viral clip, but somewhere between the arguments and the applause, TLC's patience cracked. People inside the network, allegedly, had been warning about incidents for years. At first, no one cared. When the views are high, no one asks questions. But the trouble was building, quietly, behind production doors. By the time viewers were celebrating the couple's new house and baby storylines, something else was happening: emails, reports, and crew complaints piling up. Sources later claimed there was an internal file so detailed it read like a diary of every blow-up, delay, and dispute, the kind of record networks never want to admit exists. Fans only saw a confident husband and a loyal wife on screen, but insiders were seeing something else: two people fighting not just each other, but the crew, the system, and every rule that kept the cameras rolling. The mystery wasn't why TLC acted. The real shock was how long they waited. Something had shifted inside the studio walls, and what began as simple tension had turned into something the network could no longer control. But if you think this all started with that lawsuit, you're wrong. The first spark didn't happen in a courtroom, it happened years earlier, off camera, when the cameras stopped rolling and the tempers didn't. When Andre first appeared on 90 Day Fiancé, he was the perfect TV character. Loud, confident, proud of his Moldovan roots, and unfiltered in every scene. Viewers called him controlling, but TLC called him gold. His clashes with Elizabeth's family became instant fan bait, and producers leaned into it. Every awkward dinner, every raised eyebrow, every argument about who wears the pants was pushed front and center. It worked. Their story became a hit, and TLC realized drama was their strongest currency. Elizabeth, sweet and patient on screen, became the balance to Andre's intensity. The audience picked sides, and that friction drove ratings higher. What most people didn't see was how much of that tension followed them offset. Crew members, according to several accounts, noticed that what looked like just personality sometimes crossed into control during filming. The energy on set could flip in seconds. 1 minute charming, the next confrontational. Still, producers thought they could manage him. After all, reality TV runs on big personalities, not quiet ones. The first few seasons went smoothly enough. Their wedding in Moldova, the family drama, the cultural clashes, it all built the image of a couple always on the edge but never breaking. TLC executives saw the numbers spike and celebrated it as success. But behind the celebration, the first quiet notes started to appear. Little memos from field producers about unusual tension during filming, difficulty with scheduling, and extended scene disputes. Nothing serious at first, just the kind of administrative notes networks keep as insurance. Andre was reportedly direct about what he wanted. He liked control over how he and his family were portrayed. He questioned producers, challenged edits, and sometimes refused to shoot scenes he found fake. On paper, that sounds like integrity. In production, it reads as defiance. The balance between confidence and conflict blurred fast. And when a show depends on constant deadlines, every argument costs money. Elizabeth tried to play mediator in the beginning. Those who worked with her described her as professional, polite, and patient. But over time, that patience started thinning. The more she defended Andre, the more producers felt she was turning against them. The mood shifted. They were no longer the fun, dramatic couple, they were the difficult ones. Viewers saw none of this. On screen, everything looked like business as usual. But inside production offices, conversations were changing. People started asking whether the show's biggest stars were becoming its biggest problem. Then one night, a producer filed a memo so specific, so detailed, it stopped being a note and became evidence. That single document quietly changed everything that followed. Once that memo was written, it didn't disappear into a drawer. It grew legs. What began as one note turned into a pattern, and that pattern became a file. Insiders later called it the Castravete file, a thick, quietly expanding record that tracked every red flag production teams had logged over the years. No one outside the inner circle was supposed to know it existed. But among the crew, whispers started spreading. Andre and Elizabeth had gone from difficult but worth it to high-risk talent. Reality TV thrives on chaos but controlled chaos. Every scene, no matter how explosive, still follows a plan. Producers build outlines, set time limits, and guide reactions without fully scripting them. Most cast members understand that balance. But Andre, according to several former crew members, didn't. He wanted control over the camera, the storyline, and the version of himself shown to millions. His defiance wasn't random, it was methodical. When he felt cornered, he'd push back hard. If he didn't like the angle, the topic, or the crew's tone, he'd argue. And when producers pushed back, the room froze. Elizabeth at first softened the edges. She'd redirect tension, crack a joke, change the subject. But as the years went on, something shifted. She began mirroring Andre's energy. Defending him became second nature. Her loyalty, admirable to some, only fueled the perception that the couple functioned as one unit against production. The chemistry that made them stars now made them a liability. Crew reports began mentioning longer delays, more frequent reshoots, and tense standoffs. Other cast members started noticing, too. Some, according to on-set chatter, refused to share scenes with them. One former participant allegedly joked that working near Andre was like filming with live explosives. The humor didn't hide the truth, everyone walked on eggshells. Inside TLC's offices, the file grew fatter with every season. Pages of notes, timestamps, crew statements, and internal emails. It was no longer gossip, it was documentation. The kind of paper trail networks build only when they're preparing for the worst. A few producers reportedly tried to intervene, suggesting mediation sessions or short breaks between shoots. But the pattern didn't stop. If anything, it escalated. Psychologically, the tension made sense. Andre's need for control wasn't limited to his marriage. It extended to every interaction tied to his image. Elizabeth's alignment with him wasn't submission, it was survival. Together, they built a wall around themselves, turning every conversation into a test of loyalty. To the audience, that looked like passion. To the crew, it looked like chaos with a camera. The breaking point came during a filming trip to Northern Virginia. It was supposed to be a routine shoot at a hotel, nothing dramatic. But when a disagreement over scheduling spiraled, Andre allegedly demanded cameras be shut off mid-scene. Voices rose, guests overheard, security was called. No one was hurt, but the embarrassment was enough for the supervising producer to file a full incident report that night. That hotel confrontation didn't just end a shooting day. It marked the first time TLC officially recognized that their star couple's drama had crossed from television into real life, and there was no going back. After that hotel blow-up, everything changed quietly but permanently. TLC didn't cut ties right away. Instead, the network watched and kept counting. Each new delay added cost. Each argument pushed schedules back. Crew overtime went up, rental fees ticked higher, and travel budgets ballooned. Reality TV looks cheap on screen, but every extra hour of filming drains money fast. Across several seasons, what started as manageable friction turned into chaos management. Producers began to dread assignments with Andre and Elizabeth. A few even asked to be rotated off the unit. One insider described the mood as tension fatigue. Crew morale dropped, and the constant waiting around for tempers to cool left entire teams burned out. But the irony, ratings were still strong. TLC couldn't risk losing a storyline that pulled millions. Andre, for his part, allegedly believed production exaggerated the problems. He saw himself as professional, arguing only when things felt unfair. Elizabeth reportedly agreed, claiming that editing twisted their image for drama. Both felt trapped in a loop: defend yourself, look worse, push back harder. To them, it wasn't hostility, it was survival. To the crew, it felt like intimidation. By this time, the Castravete file had thickened into a binder. Incident logs filled pages. Shutdowns in Florida, canceled shoots in Virginia, and footage wasted after sudden walkouts. Finance reports started quantifying the damage. Cumulative losses were approaching six figures and still climbing. Every time filming stopped, the dominoes fell. Locations lost, schedules rewritten, contracts renegotiated. Executives tried small fixes, shorter filming days, extra mediators, temporary pauses. Nothing worked for long. The show kept moving, but behind the scenes, producers whispered that one more meltdown could shut everything down for good. Even loyal crew started to question why the network kept indulging the volatility. How far would TLC go before deciding enough was enough? That answer was coming soon, and it wouldn't be quiet. It happened during what should have been a simple day of filming. A routine argument spiraled into something the crew couldn't contain. Andre clashed with one of TLC's most senior producers, someone known for staying calm even in chaos. Voices carried down the hallway. Crew members froze, unsure whether to keep cameras rolling or shut them off. By the time the shouting stopped, the producer walked out, and the day's shoot was cancelled on the spot. The cost for that single day was estimated in the tens of thousands. But the real damage was deeper, the trust was gone. Within 24 hours, TLC's legal department got involved. They started reviewing everything: old emails, expense logs, internal notes, and crew complaints dating back to the couple's first season. For the first time, all those scattered reports came together in one place. What they saw wasn't a few bad moments. It was a consistent pattern of disruption. Missed deadlines, cancelled scenes, safety concerns, and financial losses that, when added up, were now pushing toward $1 million. Executives who once dismissed the complaints began to panic. The Castravete file wasn't a rumor anymore, it was now evidence in a potential legal liability case. Meetings turned tense. Department heads demanded updates every hour. PR teams were told to prepare statements in case the story breaks. One insider described the mood inside the building as controlled chaos. Everyone knew a storm was coming, they just didn't know how big. Andre and Elizabeth, meanwhile, had no idea how serious the situation had become. On camera, they kept up appearances. Off camera, production was unraveling. Crew members whispered about insurance claims and breach of contract clauses. TLC's attorneys drafted preliminary documents. The countdown had started. The executives faced a brutal question: keep protecting a top-rated couple or protect the network itself. They knew either choice would cost them, but only one could be survived. The decision was made quietly, unanimously, and late at night. What they didn't know was that someone inside the network had already copied parts of the file. Before TLC could control the fallout, the first leak had already escaped. The first leak was small, a single screenshot from what looked like an internal TLC memo. It mentioned production instability linked to Andre's conduct. Within hours, that image spread across Reddit, then TikTok, then every 90-day Fiancé fan page. At first, people assumed it was fake. But the formatting, the codes, the phrasing, it all looked too real. Reporters noticed. Hashtags trended. Fans demanded answers. Inside TLC, panic set in. The legal team scrambled to trace the source. It froze internal drives. Employees were warned about sharing files outside official channels, but it was too late. The memo had cracked open the story, and now everyone wanted more. Crew members started whispering. Former employees reached out to entertainment blogs, each one adding a new layer to the chaos. For years, fans had suspected drama behind the cameras. Now they felt vindicated. Andre reportedly exploded when he saw the leak online. He believed the network was trying to destroy him. Elizabeth, overwhelmed, tried to stay quiet but couldn't hide her fear. Friends close to the couple said she barely slept. The idea of being labeled banned terrified her. For Andre, it was about pride. For Elizabeth, it was about losing everything she'd built: the house, the stability, the show that paid their bills. Meanwhile, TLC itself was split. One group pushed to go public and control the story. Another insisted on silence, hoping the noise would fade. Meetings grew hostile. Emails turned defensive. Advertisers started asking questions. The franchise that once made TLC untouchable was now a liability. Fans fueled the fire. Some defended the couple, claiming producers set them up. Others believed this was karma for years of arrogance. The online war turned brutal. Even other cast members joined in, some mocking, some sympathetic, all feeding the storm. Inside the production offices, guilt spread among the crew. Many had worked with Andre and Elizabeth for years. Some liked them. Others dreaded them. Now, all of them were caught in a scandal they never wanted to see public. A few staffers began worrying about their own names appearing in leaks. Trust was gone. Everyone was watching their backs. Then came the second leak, far worse than the first. It wasn't a memo, it was a section of a producer's formal complaint, allegedly describing an incident where a crew member felt unsafe. It matched TLC's formatting perfectly, right down to the internal timestamp. That document didn't just confirm the scandal, it turned it into a crisis. Because once that second leak dropped, the legal team had no choice. the quiet review turned into a full-scale lawsuit, and the stakes for everyone, especially Andre and Elizabeth, skyrocketed overnight. The morning the lawsuit dropped, no one at TLC even had time to brief their teams. It was supposed to stay sealed until the official filing, but somehow the document appeared online before lunch. Fans woke up to headlines about a $1 million lawsuit and a permanent network ban. The words breach of contract and production interference were suddenly everywhere. Screenshots of the legal filing circulated faster than TLC's PR could react. By noon, number Castravete ban was trending. The lawsuit wasn't gossip anymore, it was public record. The filing accused Andre and Elizabeth of repeatedly disrupting production, violating filming agreements, and creating a hostile work environment that cost the network money and morale. In plain terms, TLC claimed the couple made the show impossible to film. Each shutdown, each delay, each refusal to cooperate allegedly added to a growing pile of financial losses that pushed past $1 million. The legal language was cold, but the meaning was brutal. The same intensity that once made Andre a fan magnet was now being used against him as evidence of instability. The arguments, the outbursts, even the cancelled shoots, all became proof of breach. And Elizabeth, once viewed as his calming counterpart, was now listed as complicit. Her loyalty, the very thing viewers admired, had turned into liability on paper. Social media erupted. Some viewers defended them, saying TLC had pushed them for drama and then punished them for delivering it. Others argued the network had finally drawn a line. Memes, videos, live streams, everyone had an opinion. The comments were wild, half outrage, half fascination. The scandal became the biggest story 90 Day Fiancé had seen in years. For Andre, the anger was instant. He told friends he'd been betrayed by the same people who built his career. Elizabeth, sources said, broke down when she saw their names in the headlines. She worried about their daughter, about losing income, about what came next. To them, this wasn't business, it was their life unraveling in real time. Inside TLC, staff worked around the clock to contain the fallout, but it was too late. The leak had spread to every outlet, every podcast, every gossip blog. There was no going back. The network had officially gone to war with its own stars, and the cruelest twist, Andre and Elizabeth didn't even hear the news from TLC. They found out the same way everyone else did, on their phones, scrolling through the chaos that had already consumed their world. Behind closed doors, TLC looked nothing like the confident network fans imagined. The office air felt heavy. Meetings ran late into the night. Every department, from production to PR, was in survival mode. Staff whispered in hallways, unsure who might be blamed next. Some were angry that it had come this far. Others admitted they'd seen it coming for years but were told to keep filming. The exhaustion was visible. Confidential interviews began almost immediately. Lawyers questioned everyone who'd ever worked with Andre and Elizabeth, trying to document everything before the press did. Some producers described a working environment that had become emotionally draining. They said every season felt like walking a tightrope. One wrong word and filming would explode into chaos. Others defended the couple, insisting the tension came from unrealistic network expectations and long shoot hours. There was no single truth, only fragments. Some described Andre as proud but not malicious. Others said his need for control over scenes turned simple shoots into daily battles. Elizabeth, according to many, had changed the most over time. She went from soft-spoken and helpful to defensive, almost militant in protecting her husband. For some crew, she was caught in the middle. For others, she was part of the problem. Executives weren't immune to the pressure. As the leaks spread, fingers started pointing upward. Mid-level managers blamed producers for not flagging issues earlier. Producers blamed executives for ignoring warnings. Legal blamed both sides for not acting faster. The fear wasn't only about bad press, it was about money, contracts, and credibility. 90 Day Fiancé was one of TLC's most profitable franchises. If advertisers pulled out or the public lost trust, it could cost the network far more than a lawsuit. Lawyers worked nonstop, drafting new internal protocols, rewording NDAs, and tightening access to footage archives. PR scrambled to frame the story as a private legal dispute, rather than a systemic failure. But that spin fell apart every time another screenshot leaked. One insider said the company's Slack channels went quiet overnight, like everyone was afraid to type. Somewhere in that storm, empathy began to surface. A few crew members admitted they missed the old days, before everything became legal drama. They said Andre and Elizabeth weren't villains, just people who couldn't separate reality from reality TV anymore. It was a quiet truth few were willing to say out loud. But deep inside that legal vault, something else was waiting to surface. Hidden recordings, made during two tense seasons, that would soon change how everyone remembered the Castravete story. The first audio clip hit the internet late at night, posted anonymously on a gossip forum. The voice was unmistakable. Andre arguing with what sounded like a producer, his tone sharp, his words clipped. It wasn't violent, but it was heated, the kind of argument that stripped away the polished version fans saw on screen. Within hours, the clip had gone viral. By morning, podcasts were playing it on repeat. Every outlet wanted to know, was it real? TLC refused to confirm, but the internal panic said everything. According to insiders, the clip matched timestamps from an actual production day 2 years earlier. Then came the second one, even worse. This time, the frustration was raw. A producer's voice could be heard pleading for calm while Andre pushed back, saying he was tired of being provoked. The context was messy, but the tone was damning. To viewers, it sounded like a man losing patience. To the network, it sounded like liability on tape. Within days, the boardroom decision was made. TLC executives voted to enforce a lifetime ban on both Andre and Elizabeth. They would be removed from all future programming, including spin-offs and specials. It was the most severe action the network had taken against any cast in franchise history. The couple's names were scrubbed from internal planning documents, and post-production teams were told to remove unused footage from archives. Fans didn't know what to believe. Some called it the right move, arguing that no one should mistreat crew or disrupt filming. Others accused TLC of hypocrisy, saying the network built its empire on conflict and then punished the very people who delivered it. A few even wondered if the leaks were strategic, damage control disguised as accountability. Online, every opinion became a battlefield. Elizabeth's social media went quiet. Andre, who had always been quick to defend himself online, said nothing. Silence became their only statement. People close to them described the atmosphere at home as tense and fearful. They'd gone from being one of the most recognizable couples on TV to facing public scrutiny with no outlet to respond. Fame had turned into isolation overnight. And yet, beneath the chaos, there was still empathy. Many in the crew admitted they understood how it happened. Reality TV doesn't just show pressure, it multiplies it. When your real life becomes your paycheck, every argument, every edit, every rumor hits differently. Andre's pride and Elizabeth's loyalty had once made them magnetic. Now, those same traits had closed every door they had left. When they finally broke their silence, the damage was already done. Their words came too late to save their future, or to change the story the world had already decided to believe. After the storm faded, what was left was silence. TLC had moved on to new storylines, new couples, new drama. But inside the network, the scars of the Castrovete fallout didn't disappear. Meetings changed tone. Producers were told to prioritize safety, to flag emotional distress early, to stop filming when tension crossed a line. Crew briefings added new clauses about mental health and respect. TLC didn't call it reform, but it was. The Castrovete case had forced the network to face the cost of turning real relationships into a production schedule. Fans noticed the shift too. The newer seasons felt more cautious, more self-aware. Some viewers missed the chaos, others said it was overdue. But the question still hung in the air: how much of reality TV is real, and how much is just survival under a spotlight? The show had always promised love stories. Yet what it delivered, more often than not, were cautionary tales dressed up as entertainment. Andre and Elizabeth disappeared from the screen but not from memory. Their rise and fall became industry shorthand for what happens when authenticity turns into addiction. In private, a few executives admitted that the couple's story changed how TLC approached every new contract. No one wanted another file growing in secret. No one wanted another lawsuit. The quiet reforms that followed weren't about image, they were about self-preservation. For Andre and Elizabeth, the aftermath was harder. No network wanted the risk. No spin-off called. Their social media presence flickered between denial and nostalgia. Friends said they were trying to rebuild, focusing on family, learning to live without cameras. In some ways, that might have been the real ending they needed, but the damage to their public image was irreversible. Fame had left a mark too deep to erase. Behind it all, one truth lingered. Reality TV doesn't just capture people, it consumes them. Every argument becomes a commodity. Every confession, a headline. Every breakdown, a moment of engagement. The Castrovete saga forced both fans and producers to confront that uncomfortable truth. When a person becomes a storyline, Humanity is the first casualty. And yet, even with all that reflection, the cycle hasn't stopped. A new couple has already started showing the same warning signs: fights over control, defiance toward production, growing resentment online. Because in the end, every empire that feeds on conflict eventually creates its next explosion. The only question now is who's next.